Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello, teacher.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, I think we have 12 people. I think we can start our lecture now. Uh, Today lecture will be about the conceptual and okay, and it's about the idea how we can transform one economy from low income to become a high income nations or high income countries. Okay? So you will see that there are many ideas, okay, that being proposed by different researchers, scholars, and even economists, okay, that take a look at different conceptual and some actually back up with evidence about how one country can transform to from low income, from a poor country to become a rich countries. Okay, and I like to show you this front cover. You can see the idea of how the economics growth and development. So here is a figure of Shanghai. Okay, it's and then in the year 1987, and one is year 2013. So you see, there are a lot of things tech going on, and many economists have been thinking about how that happened. Okay, what contributions, what that leading to this kind of chain. Okay, uh, so we will look at the following. Okay, in this chapter. First, we will investigate the classic theory. Okay, that explain how a country can transform from poor country to become a developed countries. So I use the word classic because here is the conventional. Okay, conventional mean that it have been widely accepted by many of economists in the past. Okay, and this does not mean that the ideas are no longer valid. Okay, and we cannot make use of the idea. Okay, or the theory. It just means that the ideas have been proposed long ago. Okay, about how we can transform one country from low income into high income. Okay, so classic does not mean it's out of date. Okay, it just means that the idea is an old idea that have been. So some of these classic theory are still work. Okay, we can use it. We can make it in use of it in solving the problem that many countries in the world are facing. Okay, so I like to clarify again that classic does not mean out of date. Okay. Uh, the other thing that we will do in this chapter, we will evaluate the strength and the weakness in each theory. So you will see that in every ideas that people actually propose, it tend to have their own strength and weakness. Okay, it's very difficult to find a theory that can last forever. Okay, so it always have its own weakness and a strength. So we have to aware of this kind of thing. Lastly, we will try to consolidate the consensus, I mean, and the complementary about each ideas. So we see that if we want our country to grow and develop, we need to find way to combine, okay, or to complement all of these ideas together. Okay, so because some idea maybe work best in some context, it may be not working in other contexts. So we have to find way and make use of idea that work for us. Okay. I like to clarify before we start all of the chapter. This chapter and the next one will only about conceptual, mostly theoretical. Okay, so it's a long actually debate, long debate in area of development economics. Okay. So let's begin about the classic series. There are many ideas, okay, about how we can transform one economy from low income to become the high income economy. Okay, so there are a lot of, I can say, there are many of this, and uh, even today there's still some new series that emerge, and it still partly belong to this classic series of development. Okay, uh, even though that we have many ideas, but it turned out that we can group. Okay, we can group the idea into four popular, popular group. So this is, does not mean that all the series are only belong to the four group. Uh, there could be the other groups, but these four groups perhaps are the most popular and the most frequently cited by development economists. So we would like to only focus on this four group of ideas or theory. Okay, so this does not mean that there could not more than four. It could be five, six, seven. Okay, but perhaps these four are the very well known and the very popular. Okay. The first group of theory about the development is called the linear state of growth model. Okay, linear state of growth model. And the second group of theory about development is the theory and pattern of structural change. And the third group is the international dependent revolution theory. And the last group is the neoclassical free market theory about development. Okay. So we will visit this theory one by one in detail. We look at its strength, its weakness, and we look at evidence if the theory actually work in the context in the past in many countries. Okay. Uh, in recent years, there is a tendency to have the eclectic approach. Okay, that emerged that trying um, to combine. Okay, all of these classics together. So let's begin by visiting each of the theory, okay, and see how is the main idea, okay, of each group, okay. In each theory, okay, you will see there are many proposed idea, but those ideas tend to share similarity. So we like to group them, sorry, to group them into the each category, okay. So for example, the linear stage of growth model, we have many theory, many model, okay, but it's actually sharing the same characteristic, okay. So we put them into one group and we call that linear state of growth. Similarly for group 2 and group 3 and group 4, okay. So let's begin by visiting the linear state of growth model. Uh, the linear state of growth is the first actually idea uh, one can you see the slide?
Yeah, sure, yes.
Uh, yeah, seem I have the it seem like you're having internet problem, so I need to share the screen again. Okay, so the idea of the linear state of growth is it's very well known, and it perhaps the first thing that economists start to think about growth and development. And the logic of this uh, group of idea, okay, is that it's tend to originate from what we call Marshall Plan. Okay, Marshall Plan. You may actually learn history, and you may know that after the Second World War, right? You see, in the Second World War, you have two group of alliance, right? You have the alliance at on the sides of the UK, Britain, France, and so on, and on the other side you have Italy, Japan, and others. Okay, and you can see after the war ended in 1945, right? And what we see after this war is that many of the infrastructure in the Europe, okay, was destroyed. Okay, so existing machine capital factories, everything is being destroyed. And it was the US that provide a lot of support and donation to these European nations after the World War II. Okay, so we call that plan is called Marshall Plans, a plan for donations to. So a lot of donation have been given, okay, by the U.S. to the European countries after the Second World Wars. The second source, okay, that originate from that this idea originate from is that it coming from the experience of what we call developed countries. So many of the developed countries that before they used to be poor country, just like Cambodia, like many other developing or least developed countries, but they actually can transform themselves. Okay, so this idea, the linear state growth theory, is based and originate from the Marshall Plan and the experience of the currently the developed and high income countries. And the main idea of the theory is that it say that the growth, the economic growth in one country, depending on the accelerated capital accumulations. Okay, so it's sometimes called the capital fundamentalism. So the main idea is that capital, okay, capital is the key to everything. Okay, if you want your economy to grow, you need to have enough capital. That's the basic and very the core ingredient for economics to grow. Okay, you need to have capital. Okay, and the more you can accumulate the capital, the better you can grow faster. That's the idea of linear stage of growth. And we have many models that have been proposed in this group of linear stage theory. Uh, so we will actually look at two models within this linear stage of growth theory. The first model is the theory that is proposed by Rostow. Rostow is a historian economist, and he proposed a model which he called stage of growth model of development. So according to his idea, uh, generally a country that transform from low income into high income would actually goes through a transition that is starting from underdevelopment to development, and it can be described in terms of a series of stage. Okay, for example, country have to begin with a takeoff, okay, and then they're moving into grow, and then they become mature, and then they can self-sustaining, and then they start to decline. And moving from one stage to the other stage is depending on the ability of the country to mobilize the capital. Okay, it could be the domestic or the foreign capital, okay, that the country have. So moving from one state to the others is depending on whether the country can make the best use of the capital that it have. Okay, so and we don't know how long. Okay, from one stage into the other stage, it may be differ from one country to the others. So Rostow take a look at many countries. Okay, and mostly look at the advanced developed country, and you look at the history, and you see that they seem to have the stage. Okay, so you have a primitive stage, okay, under development stage, and then you have a takeoff, and then you have a grow, and then you have a mature, and then you self-sustaining, and then decline, something like that. Okay, but from one stage to the other stage, you need to mobilize, make use of the capital. That's the main idea of the roster. Okay. Uh, So if you're looking at our country like Cambodia, what state can we say we are in? Okay, it's very difficult to justify, but uh, I do actually believe we went through the stage, okay, like from low income to the lower middle income. So we have a transitions, and we see a lot of change, okay, during this period. Okay, we see we at least see some kind of change in society, and we receive a lot of capital during that period. Okay, a lot of inflow of the foreign investments, a lot of new infrastructure being built. Okay, so we have to admit that we do change, but it's very difficult to say at the moment that company is in the takeoff, or we already reaching the mature, or maybe in the state that we're going to decline. Okay, so we don't know, but I'm quite sure that we have moving from primitive. Okay, perhaps we are in the takeoff. Okay, not yet. You have the own way of trying to justify and give evidence to support. Okay. So that was the Rostov. And the key about Rostov idea is that capital is the key. You need capital, you need physical capital. What exactly is capital? Well, in economics, when we think of capital, generally we talk about physical capital, okay? Which mean we talk about the investment in machines, okay? Machine that produce in the factory, the productions, okay? Buildings, a road, transportation like railway system, irrigations, and so on. All these are called the physical capital. And you may ask me, sir, what about the financial capital, right? Like stock, okay? Share of company, bond. Well, bond and stock is just a way that company try to sell in order to get capital to finance the business. We already learned, right, in the previous semester, when companies sell stock because they need money to finance the business. And the way they can do, either they can borrow the money or they want to sell the share, the stock. Okay, so this money are used to finance, and when they use that money, okay, to buy the machines, that means they are buying the physical capital. Okay, so capital in a broad sense is something that is a key, okay, for the productions, and production is the key for creating the employments for, and as employment create, you create income for the workers. And as production is going on, the business owner can get profit, okay? And the landowner can get rental fees or interest payments, okay? The borrower, the lender can get, the people who provide loan to company can get interest payment. So everybody will enjoy growing in income. But you need to have the investment, you need to have capital, okay? With the machines. And that's the key idea of Rostow. The other model in this group of linear state theory is, which also very popular, is called the Harodoma growth model. We call that the AK, okay? K here represent the capital, okay? The capitals. So let me introduce you. It's in the mathematical form. So the main idea, if it's hard for you to understand the mathematical expression, that's okay, okay? Because I'm not going to ask you to write the equations. I just want you to remember that the key ingredient for having economic growth is the capital, okay? The fund that is you use for investment, okay? So in the Harrow model is that we begin by talking about saving, because the source of having capital, where do you have money to buy your machines, okay? Where you have money to build your factories, where you have money to build the condominium infrastructure, is always coming from saving. Okay, so in the Harodoma model, we assume that the saving S here is the aggregate total saving in the nation, in the countries, and Y here is the total income that economy have, or you can think that being generated, and small s here is the percentage. You can think percentage shares of income that is being saved. Generally, you can think if we have income, okay, let's say you earn a salary of 300 per month, and then you spend 200. Okay, that is spending for consumption and food and everything. So the Y, big Y, is your wage. You can think like your income, right? And as small as percentage of income. So if you spend, if you earn income 300 and you spend 200, so 100 is called saving. Okay. And small s is percentage share of the income that being saved, okay? Being saved, that's the beginning, because saving is the key, okay, for. And equation 3.2 is saying that the investment, seems like internet is not stable. The equation 3.2 is saying that investment is equaling to the change in the capital, I mean the physical capital, okay? So you can think of the change referring to the new. It could have a new machine that being buy and put into factory in productions. It could be the new constructions, building, road, or hospital that being built in the year. But also the capital that is being lost because it's getting old or being out of date and no more functioning, like a machine that is broken. Okay. So we think our investment is like the difference between the machine that have been broken and the new machine that have been bought and put into productions. Okay, so that's what I mean by. Okay, so when we talk of investment, we already referring to the new. Okay, generally are the new machine that add in that year. So investment can be seen like a flow concept that we call flow. So every year you have a new investment come in. Okay, that's what and the new investment can be estimated by taking the difference between the new size of capital that come in that years and minus the old investment that we already have in the previous year. So we only count the new machine, the new buildings, okay, in that year as investment. Okay, so I hope you get the point from 3.1 and 3.2 equation. Any questions regarding this? If not, I would like to move on. Questions? Okay, so let's move to the next 3.3. The question 3.3 say that it's very important equations. It say that the investment, okay, the size investment actually would create, okay, the income. It could generate income. It could generate output. So delta y here is the output, okay, that generate from the new income. Okay, and there is a proportion. There is a constant relationship between the size of capital that you put into your economy and the size of the income or the output that you are generating, and that the relationship is called C, small c. Small c is called the capital output ratio. Okay, so if you take a little bit slightly adjustment, you can write C, small c, as the delta k over delta y. Okay. Okay. So you can think of delta k is the amount of capital that a new investment that you put in that year, let's say year T. And delta y is the increasing in output or income that you generated from the new investment, okay, delta k or I that you put in that year, okay. So that is the relationship. So C, small the amount of capital that you require, that you put in, and the output that it generated from the investment that you put in. And we call that capital output ratio. Okay, capital output ratio. So it means a lot of things, okay? The smaller, okay, so let's say, let me give you a numerical example, perhaps to make you feel a little bit comfortable. Let's say C, okay, let's say the new investment that we put in, let's say we put $5, okay? We put in $5 is the amount of investment that we put in. And then we can generate income of $10. Okay. We put that into buying machine and then we sell product that we produce and we can get a revenue of $10. Okay. If we take the ratio of this, we can get 0.5, right? 0.5. 0.5, what does it mean? It means that for every $1 that you put in, okay, into the production, into machine, into investment, if you can generate the income of $0.5 back, okay? So maybe 0.5% of the investment that you put in. It's very high rate of, you can see a rate of return, okay? The return you can get back from in your investment. That's called the output. Okay. That clear for 3.3. Go down. Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the key is that if you are going to ask you what is the best economy that can is that if you put less money, right, but you can create more income, it means that you have uh, uh, I mean, if you can use less capital, okay, the capital, and then you can generate uh, generate high income. I mean that. So let me actually expand C again. So see here, let's say if you put in $5 and then you can generate income of $10. So we get a ratio of 0.5. The meaning of this 0.5 meaning that in order to generate $1, okay, in order to generate income for $1, you need to put a capital of $0.5, okay? Because if you put $5, then you will get $10 back, okay? So in other words, it means that for every $1 that you put into your investment, you will get back $0.5. So if you put in $5 in the investment, you will get back um, $10 back. Okay, that's the meaning of C. Okay, so C is the relationship between the between the investment you put in, okay, and the outcome and the income that you can get from your investment. So the meaning of C means that for every to generate $1 of income in your country, how much is the capital that you have to put in? Okay, so the smaller value of C mean the more efficient, right? It means that you put in less money, but you can still generate one. Let's say I have two projects, okay? Let's say I have project A and project B, okay? Let's call project one project A, and then I have project B, okay? And then project A, I have small c equaling to 0.5, and the project B, I have small c equaling to 0.8, okay? So if I'm going to ask you, which one do you think, which project A or B that you think more efficient? Let me ask. Um, I like to ask Danit. Good evening, Danit. Hello, Danit. Are you there? Hello. Silent means busy. Okay, so let me ask other people. Hello, good evening, Murkat. Yeah, Murkat. No, Murkat. Good evening. Are you there? Not here. Okay. Silent means busy. So let me ask Lee Hiên. Hello, good evening, Lee Hiên.
Yes, sure. Good evening.
Yeah, so can you try answer the question? So we have two projects. We have project A and project B. Project A have the capital output ratio 0.5, and project B have a capital output ratio 0.8. Okay. So which project do you think are more efficient? It means that which project is a good investment. I mean, okay. To answer the question, you need to understand what is the meaning of small c, okay?
Okay. I think I'm not quite sure about the data why, teacher. So could you explain?
Etawa is the income that you can generate, okay? You can get back, okay, from your investment. The increment, okay? The new increment from your new investment.
Okay, so I think the project A would be more efficient for the investment
Why?
than
Yeah,
project B.
that's correct, but can you explain me why? So what is the meaning of 0.5 in project A? And what is the meaning of 0.8 in project B?
0.5 in project A mean that I use your example as the calculation because we have 0.5 by divided 5 and by 10. So we spend only $5, but we can get back $10. So it get more than the 0.8, which means we spend $8, we get back only 10.
So 0.5 mean that if right, okay, if you put $5 you get 10, okay, you put 50 you get 100. So you don't need to care about the size of the investment. We only need small c ratio, and it can tell us the meaning. Okay, so it simply means that in project A, if in order to get back an income of $1, you need to put $0.5 or 50 cents. Okay, to generate income of $1 back. Okay, you need a capital which is equaling to $0.5, half of the income. Okay, and the to generate $1 income back from your investment, you need your capital $0.8. Okay, so in other words, it means that project we need to use more capital, okay, in order to generate $1, because the other kind of is that project A. So project A and project B give us $1. The difference is that project A we need to put in capital 0.5 in order to get $1 back. Okay. In project B, in order to get $1, you need to put in $0.8. Okay, or you can say 80 cents. Okay. So in other words, if you could put in less money and you can get more money back, that means a good investment, right? It's the concept of the rate of return investment, but it's tempting. Okay, so that is the basic idea of equation 3.3. I hope you get that. Okay, make sure you understand the meaning of this small c. Okay, the lower, the smaller the c but never negative. Okay, because if c become negative, it means that you generate a negative return, and so c would always positive. But and bigger c, okay, if c equaling 1, it means it's not a good. I mean that you put in investment equal the return, that the income that you generate, so it's not. Okay, we want to save the results, but we want to expect high incomes. So that's the idea. So let me move on to the next equation 3.4. Equation 3.4 is that, yes.
Sure. So for the C, so as long the lower it is, the better it is, right? Sure.
Right, the lower it is, the more efficient that you mobilize your investment, your capital. Okay.
Okay, thanks you, sir.
Yeah. Question 3.4 is saying that where's the money you get from in order to put in for your investment. Okay, it's coming from your saving. So saving is equaling to investment. So all of the saving is being used to buy the machine, to build infrastructure, which is building for the investment. So saving is equaling to investment. The economy, the 3.5 equation 3.5 is just trying to combine all equation from 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 and 3.4. Okay, so you can see I put the saving here, and as you can see, this one is the investment, right? And this one saving is a part of income, right, from equation 3.1, and this one is from equation 3.3, which is saying that the income generated is equaling to the proportions to the capital you put in. Okay, so we can actually combine all it together, and then we can actually simplify. Okay, this we only take these two things. That is the key, because we want to look at the saving and the small c. Okay, so we only keep focus on these two items. So we have equation 3.6. Okay, this part is a part of saving, or you can say the investment you put in, because saving is equal to investment. This side is the proportional output that you generate. Okay, you take your small c, you multiply by the additional increase in the income, and you can get the size of the income that. So, and then we make some slightly mathematical adjustment. Okay, then you come up with equation 3.7. So here I take I divide both sides, okay, by big Y's, is the total income. So I get this, and I get this ratio. So the left-hand side is equation 3.7 is what we call growth rate. Okay, So it is the percentage change in growth rate. You can think of yearly growth rate, like Canadian grows 6%, 7%, 8%, okay, something like that. Okay, so let's say last year we have in the year 2021 we grow 4%, right? It's 3%, right? Grow percent 3 or 4%. And in the year 2020 there is a minus growth, okay, because economic contract, okay. So you can think of delta y or y is the growth rate, okay? So equation 3.7 is saying that economic growth rate in one country depending on two things. The first one is the saving, okay? The rate of saving in the countries. And it's also the small c, which is the capital output ratio, okay? So that is the key that determine how economic can grow. You can grow bigger, your economy like Cambodia can grow at 6 or 8% or 9% or 10%, or it can grow only 1%, influenced by two things. One is the saving rate that your economy can mobilize. The other is the small c, which is the capital output ratio. It's the efficiency of the capital. Okay, if you put your capital into the right way, right industry, you're more likely to grow faster and high economic growth. Okay, so that's what we mean. We can also add the depreciation rate into 3.7, so we can minus, because the fact that the machine is getting old, or the construction like the bridge, or the the tall building, irrigation, weather forecast stations, hydroelectrics dam, okay, irrigation, are all becoming old, and that would slower the growth rate. So we put a minus sign here to incorporate it into the idea of growth. Okay. So I hope you get the ideas of this one. From Harold model. So the main idea of this growth model, if you're looking, okay, the key, you can take a look at equation 3.7 and try to get implications from the model. So you can see here, okay, if you want this economic growth, you can think this is like growth. To grow higher, you need to have a bigger S, right? Because it's according to the ratio between S and C, and S is the saving rate. The more you can save of your income, the bigger you can generate high economic growth. Okay. If you think of the saving in our country, do you think that many of our population, do we have saving? Okay. Do you think of our government, do they have saving? Okay. What are the percentage the gross saving that can mobilize? Turn out that not much. Okay. Believe me, not much. Okay. Anyway, the more you can save, okay, the more your country can save, okay, the better you can mobilize, you can have high growth. That's what we can say from equation 3.7. Okay, you want your economy to grow, make sure you have more saving. Okay, make sure you have more saving. That's the first thing. You need more saving. So you may say, sir, if we have very small, I mean, my salary only 200. Okay, sorry. My salary is only 200, and I almost spend all that. I don't have any saving. Okay, so saving will be small. That's true. Okay, for many developing country, we tend to have not much saving. Okay, Japan is one of the country that do have bigger saving. Okay, in the past, the fact they can grow over the past 50 years is because they had much on saving. The other thing about saving is that, remember, it's a part of your income that you sacrifice. If you don't want to spend money, okay, then you can have more saving, but it's hurt you, okay, because if you keep more saving, you may not need to buy food and something like that. So it's very difficult, okay. So for many developing country, when it turns to saving, you have to depending on inflow of saving from other country. So FDI from China, from other country like Singapore, from other key, okay? Because if you don't have saving, you don't have money to buy a new machine. So you need to use the foreigner to buy the machines for you, okay? And generate production in your country. That is the idea of saving, okay? So that's the first thing. The other thing that you need to know in equation 3.7 is small c, okay? So because C is in the is at the denominator by, okay? So you can have high growth if you have smaller value of C, okay? Remember the small value of C mean that the better you can efficiently use the capital. You are bestly efficiently use the money. For every dollar you use, you make it the best you can get back from your this is depending on how you use your capital, okay? The money you have. If you use your money, you buy a very good machines, a very high quality, very functionally operating efficiency, okay? You're likely to generate very high growth. Okay, if you use the money and then you build a bridge, okay, let's say connection between the Ariksat and the Chorojungwa, for example, okay, but the quality of bridge is so poor, okay, it lasts only 2 years and then the bridge broke down. Example only, okay, then how you expect to generate the economic growth in the next 10 years or 50 years, okay? So make sure you make efficient use of the capital you put in, okay? Make sure it's a very good quality bridge, okay? Sustaining and supporting the transportation of people who want to bring the mango from the other side of the river to sell in the city, okay? That would generate income for everyone, okay? So we think of how efficient are you going to mobilize, okay, the capital. So hopefully you get idea what I mean by 3.7, okay? 3.7. So any questions for that? Udon?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. By the way, the equations 3.7 is one of the key used to project economic growth in any countries, okay? But it's only valid for small economy, okay? Where they likely to don't have much flow in of capital from outside, okay? So we can use that to project. Let's say we know a country. Let's call it country. Let's say they call it the golden country, okay? Golden countries. So in the golden, if we know the saving rate, let's say the saving rate is S is 0. Let's say he can save 3%. Okay, the small s is 3%. In other words, for every $1, the economy save 0.03. Okay, it means 0.03 or 3 cents for every $1 of income. And we can know the small c. Let's say the small c equaling to 0.9. Okay, example. Okay, so we know the saving is 0.03 and the small c is 0.9. You can put in the number and you can estimate the growth rate in the next year. So because this year the saving is 0.03 is 9. Okay, we can get a number. Okay, so what is the number? It would be well, okay, I think I should get an easy number. Okay, so let's put this as 3. 3. Okay, so let's small c equaling 0.3. Okay, so we can cancel that and then get 0.001. Okay, in other words, the growth rate is 0.1%. 0.1%. Okay, so the growth rate, the economic growth rate for that nation is 0.1%. Okay, so if we can estimate the saving rate in the nations, we can estimate the small c in the nations, we can try to estimate the growth rate in the next years. What will be the growth rate for Cambodia next year? Turn out that we don't use this formula for projecting our macroeconomy recently, because in Cambodia you receive a lot of inflow capital. We are open to trade. So trade would be playing important role, okay? Not only the saving and the mobilization. So but in the past, in the projection at the MEF, they did use this kind of formula to project what will be the growth rate next year, okay? A forecast. Okay, I think that's what I want to say. So any question for that? We can go on to the weakness and strength of the model. Good evening, Dalia.
Yes, like hello, like
Yeah. Any question regarding the Harodoma model and the linear stage of growth in this linear stage growth theory?
hello, like
Any
can you
point you
hear
feel?
me?
Yes. So any question for that?
Yeah. Ôi. Hello.
Yes. Going on, yes. Yeah, I think we can move on and maybe we can get a question later. So the weakness and the strength of this idea, so we know that let me wrap up that the idea of this linear stage of growth is that you need capital. Capital is the key for economic growth. If you want your country to grow, make sure you have capital, okay? If you don't have capital, it's very hard, okay? So that's the idea. And the weakness is in this series that its necessity is not sufficient, okay? You can think that you have money, you have capital, you have machine, but if you don't have your people, your resource, I mean human capital to use the machines, you don't have a good procedure for keeping investment in the best way, okay, then it may you cannot actually grow, okay. So you can see after the Second World War, you can see such building in Europe, okay, being destroyed. And the Marshall Plan had put a lot of donations. So the US decide to invest. They give a lot of ODA to the Europe, and also a lot of FDI come to invest in Europe. Okay. And then they start new infrastructure, new production. So the capital that flow in the Europe is the key that they grow. However, if you think you're looking back, okay, the fact that the Marshall Plan work, okay, for Europe because the Europe country receiving and possess the necessary structure, institution, and perhaps attitudinal condition. We have been known that the Europe have a lot of human capital. Even scientists, many scholars like Einstein or even Newton and many of scientists are coming. Industrial revolutions are also coming from the Europe. Okay, so they have human capital, along with the injections of a lot of money and capital from the US, and in combination with the structures and law that are in those countries, it makes them grow faster. Okay, it's not only about the money, the capital that flow in. It's also about the structure institution that the Europe have. So we can say that capital is only necessary, but it's not sufficient for having the economic growth. Okay. So that's the criticism for the model of linear state of growth. Well, they say that capital is important, but having capital alone is not enough. You need other things to complement the capital. Okay, so capital is only necessary but not sufficient. You need a structural institutions. You have a good law, a good political system, a good social security system, and attitude of worker, human capital, educations, and so on to support and mobilize and make use of the capital. That's the key idea. That's the key idea of the linear stage of growth theory. Okay, so hope you get it. If not, any other question up to this point? I think it's very easy to get from that linear stage of growth model. Okay. Like to move on to the next group of theory. Okay. So the second group of theory about how we can transform one country from low income into middle income is called structural change model, or you can call structural change theory. This is a group of theory idea that say we should focus on the mechanism by which the underdeveloped economy transform their domestic economic structures. Okay, they highlight the word structures from heavy emphasis on traditional subsistence agriculture to more modern and more urbanized and more industrial diversified manufacturing and service economy. Okay. In other words, the idea of this group is that if you want your economy to grow, you need to have some structural change happening in your countries. If there's no such kind of structural change, it would be very difficult to say that you will moving from low income into high income. Okay, so you need to ensure structural change. Okay, and there are many, I mean, model or theory that or idea that have been proposed about the structural change. Okay, for example, perhaps the easy way to look at structure. What do I mean by structure? There are many meaning that we can giving for what we mean by structure, but maybe the basic way is to think of like agriculture, industry, and services. Okay, by economic sector. But we may think of structure in other ways. That's okay. But the group is trying to say that you want your country to have economic growth, you must have structural change. Okay. If you're looking back in our country, we would see we do really have experienced some of this, right? I showed you in the previous chapter that in the year 2015, the contribution, the value added from the agriculture is smaller than the value added from the industry. And that's the first time we change, we have structural change, okay? But there are many others change, okay? For example, we change from the planned economy into market economy. Okay, we change from having only public education into also private education system along with public education. Okay, we have a lot of undergoing. We have experienced the growth in urban, rural, urban migrations and so on. Okay, so you see a lot of thing going on. So there's a lot of structural change. We see narrow down in family size. We see women these days actually turn to marry at later age. Okay. So these are all things we can think of structural change. Okay. Structural change. We see companies start to use digital in the company and so on, something like that is structural change. Okay. So a lot of things that being changed. The idea is that you need to have that kind of structural change if you want to have economic growth. And I will show you two kind of model that is the most popular in this group of theory. I mean the structural change theory. The first one is called the Lewis two. The other one is the pattern of development. These two models, the Lewis two-sector model and the Chenery pattern of development model are the two that the most popular. And it's not exhaustive. There are many other models inside this structural change theory. Okay, but perhaps these two are the most popular. Okay, in explain you about the structural change. That's why the book actually chosen it for you. Okay, so I'm going with the Lewis two-sector model. It's a little bit quite technical. As I said, it's a lot of and theoretical. Okay, so so try to get the main idea rather than these mathematical formulations or whatever. Okay. So in Lewis two-sector model, by the way, Lewis is the one of the economists who win Nobel Prize, I think in the 1950s, and this model is actually very popular, and today it's actually only partly correct. Okay, that describe what development is, but the Lewis two-sector model, in his model, he assumed that there are two sectors. Okay, the goal of his model is trying to explain the structural change that is happening between these two sectors. Okay, the two sector. The first sector is the traditional sector. So Lewis called that sector is traditional sectors, and that sector have a labor surplus. I will talk about labor surplus in a minute. And the other sector in his model is called the urban industrial sector. Okay, so what it mean by traditional sector? Traditional sector by Lewis mean you can think of the village subsistence agriculture. Okay, you can think not only agriculture, you can think non-farm business in rural province. You see your SME or micro farm. Okay, maybe you see a household selling like noodle, something like that, okay? But it's non-farm activity. This also may be considered as traditional sector, okay? They are traditional sectors. And the other sector is the urban industrial sector, which is likely more higher manufacturing with modern technology and so on, okay? So in his model, he assumed there are two sectors, and he said that in the traditional sector, you have surplus labor. So what does surplus labor mean? Surplus labor mean, in simple sense, it means that you have more labor than what you need, okay? Okay. Let's say the traditional sector need 100 people, but you have 120 people. So 20 people is surplus labor, okay? You don't need that. In economic term, we define surplus labor as the case where the marginal product of labor equaling to 0. So we need the concept of marginal product of labor. What is the marginal product of labors? You learn microeconomic, right? In year, I think year 2, right? And maybe know what is marginal. Okay. So a marginal product of labor referring to the contributions of the additional labor to the total, output. Okay. Let's say I have employed, to give you example, okay, let's say I employ 50 labor. Okay. Let's say I do farming, okay, and I employ 50 labor and in my farm. My farm is 1 hectare of land, okay, 1 hectare of lands. And then I have 1 tractor, okay, my machine is one tractor, okay, and I have labor 50, okay. So I put into my farming and then I collect rice, okay, I harvest the rice. And let's say I can get 50 tons of rice, okay. So 50 ton is the total rice that I can collect, I can harvest from my farm, from my productions, okay. So then I start to add labor. So I think that with my 1 hectare of land, I'm going to add another labor. Let's say I put 1 more labor, so I have 51 labor, okay. But I still have 1 head tractor in my farm, and also my land is still 1 hectare. Surface area is still 1 hectare. Okay. So I add 1 more labor. So let's say 1 labor. So the contribution of this 1 labor, 1 new labor, is called to the total production is called the marginal product of labor. So let's say the original production is 50 tons, right? With 50 labor. So when I add 1 more labor, the new labor which I put into my farm, he would contribute me 5 tons. 5 tons, okay? So then when I employ 51 labor, I would get total rice, which is 55 tons. Is that clear on that? I'm going to move slower because many students actually are not clearly understand the marginal concept, okay? I do realize, I don't know, maybe you don't not clear in the marginal concept in microeconomic class, okay? So that's what I mean, okay? So the 1 labor that I just hire him, employ him, contribute 5 tons, okay? My already existing 50 labor contribute 50 tons, okay? So in total, when I employ 51 labor, I get 55 tons of rice. Is that clear, Lee Hyun? Are you there?
Yeah, sure, clear.
Okay. So then I decide to continue. I want to add more labor, okay? So let's say I add another 1 new labor. So I have 52, right? Because before I have 51, so I add another. So I get 52. But the other new labor which I add, okay? The labor number 52. The labor number 52 which I adding contribute only 3 tons. Okay, 3 tons. So when I employ 52 labor, I get, you can add 55 with 3, so I get 58, okay? 58 tons. Okay. Then I keep going on, I add labor, another labor number 54. So I have, sorry, 53. So my labor, okay, so I add another labor. So I now getting my labor number 53, okay? labor number 53, and the contribution from labor number 53, let's say it's 0. Okay, 0. Okay, that's 0. Because he's become lazy and he only come to talk with other labor. He don't want to work. Okay, so in total I still get 58 ton because the new labor, the labor number 53, did not give me any, any more contribution. Okay, and then I keep going on adding labor number 54. Okay, and then I still get 58. Okay, he's awesome. Okay, when I keep adding more and more and more, the labor is still 0. Okay, the contribution of new labor is 0. Okay, so I say that the labor from 53, okay, 53, 54 and over is surplus labor because the contribution of that new labor is 0. Okay, this does not mean to say that the total product that I get actually are decreasing. It just means that the contribution of new labor which I add does not contribute anything. The marginal product of this labor is 0. So we can say that labor 53, 54 is surplus labor. I hope you get the idea here. Okay. Or technical, but yep.
Is it similar to law of diminishing utility consumption?
Right, it is quite appropriate. Right, yes. It's similar to the law of diminishing return. Okay, it's applied to the labor. Yep. This is just example. I don't mean to say that when we reach the 53, we have that maybe until labor 70 or whatever. But at one point, okay, as you keep adding more and more labor, you will reach that marginal contribution of the labor to the total output is 0. Okay, and that is the point where you start to have the labor surplus. So according to the Lewis model, he's saying that we do have the labor surplus in traditional sector, but in the urban industrial sector, we don't have that kind of surplus labor because we still have more ability to add more labor, and still the new labor contribute more to the urban industrial sector output. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea. It's quite technical, but it's very, very insight on how the Lewis model is about. Okay, this is how we economists actually look at the model. Okay. Okay, so that is hopefully the very basic and very technical. In another way, also Lewis actually assume that the wage in the manufacturing is higher than wage in the agricultures. Okay, so he say that people can earn higher wage in urban industrial sector than in the traditional sector. So WM is wage in the urban industrial sector, and WA is the wage in the rural traditional sector. Okay. This is very important because remember that the wage is being paid according to the marginal in macroeconomics. Okay, if the labor market work functionally, okay, work perfectly, I mean people are paid according to their contributions. Okay, we are assuming that would induce the rural-urban migration. People would migrate from the traditional sector to work in the urban industrial sector because they expect to earn higher wage. Okay, so this induced the rural-urban migration. Okay, labor transfer employment depending on output expansion, industry investment, and capital accumulation in the urban modern sector. Okay. This process of modern sector salary sustaining growth and employment expansion is assumed to continue until all surplus labor in the traditional sector is being absorbed in the new industrial sector. Okay, so the idea of Lewis is that people who are being considered as surplus labor will start to migrate, okay, to work in urban industrial sector. Okay, and the urban sector keep expanding and reinvest, expanding more and then employ. So there will be a structural change, okay, by a movement of people working in the traditional sector to work in the urban sector. We can say that the Lewis model is a positive view about migration because all the surplus labor will be actually employed, okay, in the urban sector. You don't have people unemployed when they migrate to work in the urban industrial sector. Okay, And that is the people don't agree with Lewis, because we will talk about Todaro model in I think the next chapter 7. Okay, so that's the idea of the Lewis two-sector model. Okay, so structural change by Lewis mean that economy will moving from depending on traditional sector toward growing industrial urban sector. Okay, which employing people who are the surplus labor in the rural sector. Okay, and whenever all these people are being absorbed, wage, okay, the wage in in the urban industrial sector and the agriculture will be equal, and at that time there will be no more rural urban migrations. Okay, so that is what Lewis is saying. Okay, so one day when the no longer migration happens, when the wage are equal, then if then Lewis called that Lewis turning point. Okay, we call Lewis turning point. Okay. Lewis turning point happen when the wage in agriculture start to increase, okay, and then it start to equal the wage in the manufacturing, in urban manufacturing sector. Okay, about several years ago, me and my college, we conduct a research under the support by the IDRC of Canada. We look at the Lewis turning points. We look at the labor shortage in the agriculture in the province that is bordering to Thailand. Okay, and we found we do have that at some province, because it's very difficult to find labor there because they migrate.
Sorry, like we cannot hear you.
Okay, so me and my colleague, we produce a report for the IDC Canada, and then we look at that, and we see province that bordering to Thailand, they do have the finding labor, okay, even in farming. So labor is very expensive there, believe me. If before the COVID, now most of labor returning from Thailand, and you can have labor, but before, okay, that is Levy's turning point. Okay. Lewis model sometimes are called positive view. That is what I say, okay? Because all the surplus labor is being absorbed and employed in the urban industrial sector. Okay. This is the graphical representations of the Lewis model. But I think the key idea is, as I said, is that economy tend to depend more from traditional, urban sector rather than traditional sector. Okay, so you see there's a change, right? A change in structural change that happening, that economy moving to depending on industrial sector, and the labor is moving from the traditional rural area to the urban industrial sector. Okay, you see the structural change there in his model. If you see it, then you understand the idea of Lewis two-sector model. Okay. I like to move to the graphical explanation for that. I think it's quite a little bit mathematical, but it's okay if you don't understand that part. Okay, just try to grab the main idea of what is structural change in Lewis model. Okay, for the graph, that's just okay if you don't understand. But I will try to explain you what it means. Okay, so we have two sector. Okay, so you can see here. I have this one is the productions in the agriculture sector. Okay, so I put the total product in agriculture, the total. Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, sorry, internet seem very bad. I don't know how to change it. So the graph that on the right hand side, you can see this is a production functions. Okay, so we have this on the horizontal axis, we have labor that will be employed in the agriculture, and the vertical axis represent the total that's produced from this labor. So you can see the here is the production function, you put labor, okay, then you generate the total. Let's say you have employed 3 million worker, then you can get 10,000 tons of rice, for example, and so on. So if you keep adding more and more labor, then you can get more product from employing the labor until you reach the point like LA. Then you can see that the total production from there will not no longer increase. It will be there forever. I mean, it does not decrease, but it just don't increase. Okay, and that is the point you start to have the surplus labor in agriculture. More beyond that, you have the labor that you may not need because it does not contribute to increasing the total production in the agriculture. The graph below is the represent of the marginal, okay, marginal graph. So we can see this is the labor, okay, and you can see the marginal here is keep decreasing because this is the marginal product of labor in agriculture. As you add more and more labor, is decreasing. Okay, so we have a graph, and at the point of LA, the marginal labor of the product is 0. It means that labor at number LA, I mean. So beyond that is the surplus labor, okay? And you can see the wage here represented by you can take the total TWA here, okay? And on the left-hand side, we have the presence in the manufacturing, I mean, urban industrial sector. So you can see this one is that they have the capital, which is, let's say, labor L1, L2, and L3. You can see as you employ more labor, then they can produce more. Moreover, the investor in urban industrial sector also earn profit and then reinvest. They buy a new machine. So the machine may increase to 20. And as they increase the new machine, they also need more labor. So their labor from the traditional sector will be so you can see that the investor in the urban industrial sector reinvest. Okay, they reinvest their profit. They buy new machines from KM1, KM2 to KM3. Okay, and as they start to expand their investment, they also start to need more labor, and labor will be migrate from the agriculture to the traditional sector to the urban industrial sector. And you can see you can see here, you can see the wage in the labor in the agriculture is here, and wage for the urban is here. Okay, so you can see that when they buy new machine, the marginal product of labor start to increasing because they need more and more labor. They buy new machine, they need people to operate the machine. They need more labor, and labor will keep migrate from the traditional sector to work in the urban sector. Okay, so according to this, actually the and you can see the wage in urban is higher than wage in the traditional sector. Okay, the idea is that development is to be observed in structural transformation of economy with balance of economic activity shifting from traditional rural agriculture to the modern urban industrial sector. Okay, that's the key idea of Lewis sector. So coming the idea of this is that if you want your economy to have economic growth, you need to undergo some structural change, like idea of Lewis. Okay, that's the key idea. Okay, but there are some criticism for the Lewis model. Okay, first is that the rate of labor transfer and employment creation may not be proportional to rate of the modern sector capital accumulation, because profit may be reinvested in technology. In the previous graph which I show you, you can see that they reinvest. Okay, they buy new machine, but they also need labor. But that may be not true. Like Lewis is making assumption. Okay, he making assumption that as the investor or capitalists in the urban sector expand investment, buy new machine, they will need more labor. That may not true, okay? Because the new machine may be labor saving, okay? It may be a robot, maybe an AI, and AI may actually replace people, okay? So that is the criticism for the Lewis model, okay? And the other criticism is that do have labor surplus in rural area and full employment in urban? That's not true, okay? You see that if you're looking at Cambodia, for example, we see people migrate from the rural area to the city to work, and some actually don't get job, and they end up living in slum. I think during the COVID-19, many company manufacturing closed down, and some had to force to work in the black market, or even in this is women, okay? They may have to work in entertainment industry and so on, okay? So not everybody migrate can get job, okay? And even in the rural area, it does not always have the surplus labor. As me and my college, we found in some province, we don't have labor, okay? Because we lack of labor, shortage of labor, okay? It's very difficult to find. So do we really have surplus labor? No. Okay, so this is another criticism for Lewis. Institutional factor may push urban wage up, and there are still gap in wage between the two urban sector. I mean, according to the theory, the fact that the Lewis turning point would happen when the two wage in the industry actually equal. Okay, as the more labor going to the city and they willing to work, wage in the city will start to increase, and then wage in the rural will start to increase due to shortage of labor, and one day they will get equal. Okay, but this is what Lewis say, and in reality we don't see that, right? Maybe sometime because the new development wage still be different, and they still continue and a loop, okay, going on forever. There will be rural urban migration forever, okay? So that what's the and then people become unemployed, and when you unemployed in the city, in the urban, you may commit crimes or become robbery and so on, okay? So that's not very positive like Lewis say, okay? Assumption of diminishing return in modern industrial sector. So the model which I just showed you a minute ago of the labor plus and so on are depending on the assumption that technology have experiencing diminishing return, okay? But in fact, we don't know, okay? It could be they don't experience that kind. They may experience the constant return or maybe increasing return, okay? Or if they could have that kind of technology, okay? So the conclusion we have from Lewis may be not correct. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea, just the strength and the weakness of Lewis model. Any question up to this point? Hello, good evening. Let me call Moragat again. I call 2 times. Good evening, Moragat. Hello, good evening, Moragat. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Sorry for not answering first time.
Maybe no response to that. And Chiu Mei, from Chiu Mei.
Teacher, I was just about to. Teacher, can
good evening, Chiu Mei.
Hello, teacher. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, teacher.
So
can we take Cambodia as an example of structural change model? Like, is it a good example, teacher?
right, yeah, we can, for sure, we can take a look at that and reflect looking back. Okay.
But
this actually can apply not only to Cambodia, to many other. We do have structural change. Okay.
Yes, but regarding the criticism, teacher, like when they said that when there will be surplus of labor in the urban when more people transfer to the urban, but then is it
Right.
like
yeah,
like expanding
I got the point. Okay. any model always have a weakness, believe me, okay? You never have any theory that don't have weakness, okay? They always, okay, weakness. You have to acknowledge. But the key that we can learn from the idea, from the theory, is that you have some change, okay? There's some structural change happening. That's what we want, okay? That's the key thing, okay? And it has been proved that if we're looking at all the country in the world, we never see that a country who don't experience any change in have economic growth. That's very difficult, okay? You cannot find the counter evidence like that, okay? So perhaps we can say it's true that there is structural change, okay? Okay. So the criticism of Lewis model is not mean to say that the model is wrong. It just means to say that model is not good enough, okay? But it's good, but it's not good enough, okay? It could have a better explanation and more new insight and conclusions about what is going on in the real world if the levies actually taking account of all of this. What if the levies incorporate saving technology in the urban industrial sector? Do we still have that kind of things? Okay, so economists in the next generation, just like you, or you will be the economist in the next 10 years, I don't know, okay, is the one who going to verify that, okay? So we don't know, but so we cannot say that model is always actually good, but it gives insight for some improvement, okay? Improvement from level is that what happens if we have saving level? Like right now, we have digital transformation, we have artificial intelligence robot, okay? We have industrial 4.0, like 3D printing or smart manufacturing and so on, okay? Is going to apply to the Lewis model, but what happened to the conclusion remains the same. We have to check it, okay? But what we can learn, what make Lewis actually earn his his reputation is that he actually the pioneer who come up with idea about structural change and the development. Okay, so later on after him, there's a lot of thing going on. Okay, people keep finding new way of incorporating saving technology, labor saving technology, labor shortage, not labor surplus in rural. What happened to the conclusions? Okay, and what is the gap between urban and rural wage and so on? Okay, what if the diminishing return is not true? Okay. So all these actually are subject to the next generation economists to verify. I think I attached with you the handbook of development economic, which is published by the I think maybe it's the Chicago School or Economic or Princeton. Okay, they have more new come up ideas of all this. Okay, so just I don't know if I answered your question. So if you ask me, can we to look at our country and say that Lewis did work in our country? Okay, so you need to find way. Okay, first get an idea what Lewis is. Okay, okay. Second, verify. Okay, what happening in our country? Do it really reflecting what Lewis is saying? Okay, how many percent reflecting? I think if you say that Lewis does not reflect what happening in our country, 0% not reflecting, I think it may be not true. There are some aspect in his idea that is reflecting in what happening in our countries. So I think it's still valid to some extent, even some of thing actually are not actually a true assumption, but actually it's still work. Okay, it still work. It's still useful. Okay, so that's what I can say. Okay, for example, I think we do have rural urban migration. We do have that. We have people migrate from agriculture to work in manufacturing, like the garment industry. We do have that. Okay, we experience that. Okay, we explain more investment, expanding of industrial urban sector, FDI coming in, and we do see that. Okay, but we don't have surplus labor, but we do see that. Okay. So I'm not saying that Lewis is 0% does not work in Cambodia. I'm saying that I'm just saying that it's partly can be used to explain Okay, the transition of our country from low income into the middle income countries. That's what I can say. Partly, okay, not wholly, okay. Chimeng, hope you get the. I don't know if I properly answer your questions.
Teacher, yes, I get the idea, teacher. Thank you, teacher.
So we can move to the last part of today's sessions. The other model that also very popular in the group of structural change theory about development is that we call it the hallucinatory pattern of change. You know, we already learned in chapter 2, right? Okay, classification. The fact we classify a group of country because we want to see some pattern. Okay, you men like to see nature. They try to cover pattern. They start to learn and build some kind of insight by drawing conclusion and so on about classification of things happen in nature in the real world. So the same thing, this group of economists try to look at the set of chain. So a set of related chain, okay? You know, a set is collection of things, right? A set of related chain in economic structure of a country are required for transition from traditional economy system to the modern system. Okay, so you have a group of things that being changed, a lot of things, not set in a group, okay, not only one thing, not only rural and traditional and urban sector, okay, it's a lot of things. Empirical structural change analysis emphasizes both domestic and international constraints on development. They're looking on some obstacle that prevent the structural change. And he say that these actually are the barrier that prevent development, okay? It prevent from structural change. The best known model of this structural change is the one that introduced by the economist Chenery, okay? And Chenery proposed an idea. He take a look at many different countries, and he come up with these 5 basic observations that he see there's a change during transition from the traditional economic system to the modern economic system. The first one is that the switch from agriculture to industry and services. So many countries moving from agriculture to industry. The second is that he see the flow in of the capital and physical accumulation. There are many money investment, okay, coming into the countries, and many educated people, okay, growing in people graduate from bachelor degree at university and so on, okay. The change in consumer demand toward manufactured goods and service. So as people become richer, they start to prefer manufactured goods, okay. Their consumption patterns start to change. It's like today we like materialistic society. We like brand new car, I mean, luxury things, so on like that, okay? So we see the change in consumer behavior pattern like that. And the growth of city and urban industry with rural urban migration, okay? He observed this migration. He see that the size of urban area keeps expanding, okay? Like Phnom Penh keep expanding to cover larger geographical area, okay? Decline in family size, birth rate decline, okay? Women tend to get married late and have fewer kids. Family size is shrinking. So this is some of the main observation he's been showing in country that transform from traditional economic system to the modern economic system, okay? So you say, is it exhausted at all? Is there any other change? Yes, it has, but this is the list that he seemed to observe most in many of the countries, okay? So you maybe criticize him that it's not enough, it could be other kind of change, okay? But that's okay. But this is the thing that Shinri actually are trying to say, okay? So this is I'm not saying that is wrong, but there are limitation. Limitation for this group of ideas that it's emphasized too much on pattern rather than the theory. They run the risk of putting the cart before the horse, something that we call the problem with the causality, okay? Sometimes the fact we see this kind of change, for sure we see, okay? We see rural urban migration, we see consumer changing their pattern from eating at home to go eating out on the weekends, because people seeking pleasures in remote area during weekends and holidays. We see accumulation of new building, high sky rocket building, and so on. Okay, but sometimes, okay, this kind of thing that we see change is not the cause of leading economic to grow, but it was the economic growth that leading to this change. Okay, so we don't know which one is happening first, which one caused the other. Is it putting the horse before the cart or the cart before the horse? We don't know. We have no way of verify it. Okay, is it the egg that born before the chickens, or it was a chicken that come before the eggs? Okay, something like that. So it's very difficult to verify that. Okay, is it the economic growth in Cambodia that drive in more FDI? Okay, to invest in our country, or is it the FDI in our country that keep our economic to grow? We don't know which one. Okay. So this is the weakness that we found in this kind of structural change by pattern and structural change of the general ideas. Okay, structural changes are optimistic that the correct mix. Okay, so this is what their very important contribution is, that they have an optimistic that if you find a correct mix of this economic policy, taking account of internal and external, you will be able to generate a pattern that can sustain economic growth. Okay, so I actually also do agree with that. Each country may have their own way of picking up and mobilizing all of the resource strategy and so on in a way that perhaps, okay, leading to supporting their economic to grow. Okay, so I still there are solutions. We just don't know how to combine things to let it change. Okay, so we don't know, but maybe there could be that kind of thing to happen. So I'm not one who say that structural change is wrong. I'm just saying that I admit that there must be some change, okay, if you want economy to grow. So I think I like to only cover these two group of theory because we have reached the time. I think maybe it's too much for you because a lot of conceptual, okay. I say this chapter is more about ideas, okay, about theory, okay. So we will put discussion for chapter 3 and chapter 4 next week. So let me conclude by now is that we learned two big important theory. The linear stage of growth model, which mainly focus on capital. Capital is the key. You need investment. Without investment, you cannot grow. Okay. Without investment, you have no production. Without production, you don't have job. Without job, you don't have income for your people. You don't have income for your factory owner, for investor. You don't have income for lawyer, for doctor, okay, for nurse and so on. Okay, so you need investment. Okay, the more investment you can have, okay, the more income you generate, and it's also depending on your saving and also how you can mobilize. Having income, I mean capital investment alone is not. If you put investment in the right way, and I don't know what by right way, it's very difficult. Okay, if you build a bridge in the right locations, which is the key for economic growth. Okay. Okay, if you build a crossing bridge for students to pass the, I mean, to cross the big street in the city, but you put in wrong locations where there are no people using, you're wasting the money. Okay, that's not efficient use of investment. Okay, so it's very, so the having investment and making the best use of investment and the money you use in investment project is the key for economic growth. That's the idea from the linear stage of growth model. The second is that you need to have structural change. Okay, if you want economic growth, you must have structural change. Either structural change, I don't know, it means a lot of things. Okay, maybe a change in the public work sector. Okay, reform in public, like FMIS, at like the PFM. Okay, in the public sector, how they reform the budget system and so on. Or perhaps the structural change in administration and provincial, giving them more powers, decentralizations or whatever. Okay, so there must be some change if you want to have development. So we can combine all this, and we can have a country actually a mixture, okay, of all of these ideas. There's nothing can fit all, but it's kind of like a combinations of this. Okay. So that's what we learned for today's session. We'll talk more about the international dependent revolution and the free market idea, I think, next week. So any question by now? Udon, yep.
No, sir. No questions.
And Konita, Sukun Konita. Good evening. Okay, no response. Sitchanit, Richard Sitchanit. Good evening. No reply. Okay, maybe not there. Okay, I just want to check your. That's okay. So I think if you don't have any question, we can stop here, and we will meet again next week. By the way, I have posted the I mean the homework reflection writing, and in that reflection writing you need to watch a video by Professor Andreas Ling, which mostly about the catching up, okay, and the convergence that we learned in the previous chapter. So Professor Lansing will give you a video, and it's about the title is the rising of Asia, okay, which in the past 1,000 years turned to be dominant of the world. So we want to say that in the future, will the US lose its powers and power will be relocated to the other part of the world or not, okay? So please watch that and try to answer the questions. There is no limit for the number of page you write, but I prefer that you will keep it to 5 pages, okay? Minimum. Write short, okay, but very strong. I mean, short but strong, not long and big, okay? It's clearly touch on important thing, like people wearing a bikini, okay? Cover important thing, okay? Touch on important point and write effectively, efficiently. Okay, so that's all, and so I'd like to end the meeting here and enjoy your evening. Have a good time with the family and a good dinner. I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye, teacher.
Goodbye, lecturer.
Goodbye,
Goodbye, teacher.